It is understandable that when a game first comes out, the play experience might not be perfectly smooth. A little bit of jank here and there is expected, but a year after release, the UI should be perfectly functional. But one recent computer strategy game has failed when it comes to this issue. I have one question for the folks at Firaxis. Why the fudge is my city gonna grow in negative turns? Yes, Civilization 6 is one of the greatest computer strategy games of all time. It also has significant issues with its UI. I know that the game is 10 years old at this point, and the people who were working on the game have moved on to other things, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Let's do a tour of all the UI jank in Civilization 6. Okay, first things first, the Manage Citizens tab is absolutely miserable. Let's say we're working this iron tile and we don't want to be using it with this citizen. So in Civilization 5, this would be very easy to fix. You would just click here to deselect the citizen and then assign it to somewhere else. You could do that in Civilization 2 or Civilization 3 as well, but not in Civilization 6. If you wanted to not work this iron tile, you would need to manually click and lock every single other citizen in your empire until it pulls the guy off your iron tile, which could take a while. Now, you might be asking, why would I want to do that? It's a good tile. Well, let's say you've got the policy card in for bonus production towards builders, but you don't want to finish the builder until you have serfdom for the extra builder charges. In that case, you would want to reduce your production, but there's no easy way to pull the citizen off the high production tile. Also, some of these heads, they like kind of hide yields. Like, look, there's an extra culture that we can't see. Another thing, the game doesn't give you full information about the changes in adjacencies when you're placing a district. So for example, if we place this campus here, you could see it tells us what will be the immediate bonus on the campus, but it doesn't tell us how the campus will affect other tiles. So for example, if we place it on the woods and it destroys the woods, if there was a holy site next door, then that would reduce the adjacency on the holy site, but the game won't tell you that. Same thing the other way around, if it buffs other nearby sites, like let's say you put an aqueduct next to an industrial zone, it's not going to tell you that. And sometimes these effects can be quite big, right? So for example, the government plaza gives +1 to all adjacent tiles. The game isn't going to tell you that when you're actually placing the government plaza. The game is also inconsistent about whether it changes the ribbons at the top based on your actions in the game. So for example, if we build an improvement that increases commerce, we're at 58, now it is at 62.6. If we do a trade route, so this one is 4 commerce, 1 science, 1 culture, 1 faith. Take a look up here, 24.4. Our culture hasn't changed, but our faith actually has changed in the commerce too. Now you might look at that and say, okay, faith and commerce changes, but the science and the culture don't. But if you build a tile improvement that increases culture, you will get the culture reflected in the yields immediately. But on the other hand, the governor promotions, let's say we promote Pingala. So if we take a look at Pingala right now, he is installed in Rome. There's 5 citizens there. If we promote him, we should be getting bonus yields. So let's see what happens. +1 science, we're at 27.6. It has not changed. Speaking of the yield ribbons, I Mandela affected myself into believing that these ones at the top here, the food and the production, came with the regular game. But no, actually, these were just installed with a mod package I use for multiplayer. In a regular unmodded game of Civ 6, you actually cannot see how much is the total production in your empire. Even if you go to the list of reports here and then the yields tab, you'll notice that it is conspicuously missing here at the bottom. You get faith, you get science, you don't get to know your total production. This is kind of embarrassing. This was a feature that was included in Civilization 1. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks this, but I think the UI around housing too is just absolutely absurd. So when I see a cap, I understand that you are okay to be up to the cap, and if you exceed the cap, you take a penalty. Housing doesn't work like that. So here we are 3 out of 3, and we are taking a penalty to growth because of our lack of housing. Even worse, if you are 2 out of 3, if you are 1 short of the cap, you are still taking a penalty. So there's no pop-up here. We have the amenities pop-up, but not the housing pop-up. But if you zoom in here and scroll down, you will see 6 housing for 5 citizens. Our population growth rate is slowed by 50%. That is a massive penalty that the UI does not properly communicate to you. For comparison, take a look at Civilization 4. So for one, Civilization 4 makes a big deal if you're having any problem at all. So if you have any issue with health, you get this puking emoji next to the city name, and you get these big stink lines that like kind of get in the way when I'm trying to take a thumbnail. In addition to that, you only incur a health penalty when you are over the health cap. It works in a very intuitive way, unlike in Civ 6 where you take a penalty even if you are 1 under the cap, but then the game doesn't tell you that unless you zoom in. One common complaint that I see is that the game does not actually tell you what the yield outcomes will be if you switch to a particular policy card. That is completely valid. Some of these cards are so arcane in terms of the effect that they have. It's ridiculous to expect the player to be able to figure out or do napkin math to know how much rationalism science they will get, and is that worth it as opposed to the amount of faith that they would get from this policy card over here. That on its own is bad enough, but the worst thing yet is that you actually have to commit to all of the policy card changes, otherwise the frickin' menu will not save. So if we do this, we can't do that, and then if we go back, the policy cards have been unassigned. So yeah, we'll try 2 like this, and this is a completely reasonable thing that you might do. Let's say you want to check, oh, how many Renaissance walls do I have? I get this bonus towards cavalry units, building cavalry units. Am I building any cavalry units? Well, if you want to go check, the game will not let you do this. You have to commit. And if you try to check anyway, you have to redo all of your policy cards all over again. It's such a pain. My personal pet peeve are these city-state missions where they want you to trigger an inspiration or a eureka. What are they expecting from you here? Do they seriously expect you to memorize like over 100 texts in civics and what their special quests are to trigger these eurekas? Because in practice, what's going to happen is you're going to see this. You're going to be like, I got to check the civics tree. You'll scroll around, and then you're going to see the mission. Okay, I need to build 2 temples. Why not just put that right there to begin with? Trigger an inspiration by building 2 temples. Before you get at me, I know that there are other ways to trigger inspirations, but as far as I know, all of them are random. Like aside from a few specific great people that will like trigger a eureka for mathematics or something like that, if you pop a boost from a hut, it's just going to be a random boost. So if you are trying to deliberately complete these quests, you're going to do it by building 2 temples. You're going to be doing it by completing the quest. So it should tell you what the quest is. The UI when using carriers is kind of miserable. So you can't click on this here. This will activate the carrier itself. You can't even click on the plane right here. So if you do this, it doesn't tell you which one has been used already. So if we use one of these bombers, we don't know which one of these has a bombing run left. They both appear as like white. None of them is grayed out or shows any sign that we can't use it anymore. So the actual correct way to do this is you have to click on the tile itself. This will let you cycle through all the units. This is really unintuitive to me. Anyway, that's enough. We're kind of getting into the nitpicking here. Potato McWhiskey had a similar video for Civilization 7, but I rarely see any complaints about Civilization 6, despite the UI being measurably worse than the previous titles in a lot of specific ways that I've highlighted here today, hopefully. The only thing that comes up when you search on YouTube about Civ 6's UI is a list of mods, people talking about the best mods for the game. Maybe we wouldn't need so many mods. If they could maybe just find a couple staff to improve the game that is actually widely played, that would be much appreciated. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. See you guys next time.